Welcome to the Power of Love show sponsored by the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show sponsored by the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation. My name is TJ Jackson, and with me is my eldest brother, Taj Jackson.
What's going on, T?
Nothing much, Mr. Jackson. How you doing?
Good.
Hanging in there. If you are watching us right now, we of course are live on Facebook and YouTube. You may also be listening to us via podcasts. Very cool. We appreciate those listens very much. We ask for anyone who is getting great value from our podcast to make sure to leave a review. What that does is it helps others who may be searching for this kind of content find it. So please remember, if you are listening on podcasts, to leave a review. As for a disclaimer, we are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it and we have learned from it. And what we like to do is share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you may be going through. Saying that, if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and find it. Do not just rely on us. Now, today's date is October 25, 2023. A lot is going on. Different type of times. But Taj, I'm going to ask you on a personal level, how are you doing?
Good. It's Halloween soon, which is one of my favorite holidays.
Right?
Yeah. And just so everyone knows as well, because I've been getting a lot of comments or questions, we're not doing the Halloween party this year. I've been getting a lot of people contacting me asking that about DDGF's Halloween party. It's not happening this year. But besides that, I'm just gearing up towards Halloween. I picked out a costume. It's not anything spectacular, but just so that you know. But
I assume it's a surprise, right?
Trust me, it's not worth a surprise kind of like thing.
So do you want to share what you are going to be for Halloween this year?
I got like the generics. I think it was like a generic skeleton outfit, like glow in the dark. But it was more for comfort because I think it's kind of like a PJ-ish kind of like onesie kind of thing. So I was like, oh, that'll work perfectly. Because if I'm going to be trick or treating with my kids, for blocks, I want something with comfort.
Well, I will say this, Taj. I am going to go trick or treat with the kids, but I don't know if I'm going to do a costume this year.
So no theme. You guys usually did the theme stuff.
We've done a lot of great things. We've done Incredibles. We've done Ninja Turtles. We've done superheroes. But I think Fanny and I, we're just tired. We're tired. So we may just be sweats and sweatshirts and letting our kids, that Jojo already got a costume. Rio's going to want to get one. Maybe I'll take him to go down and go grab one. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be dressing up this year.
Yeah.
So maybe taking a year off. We've had many years, 20 plus years of trick or treating, and it's starting to, it's just tiring.
Have it still on you?
You're fresh into it. You're new to.
Oh yeah, this is. I'm excited.
Yeah. As you should be. Taj, this is episode number 298. There's only two more before we get to the big 300, which is an incredible thing. I will say this: when we first started back in 2016 with the podcast, I believe it was a year later, or maybe 17. To know that we're approaching episode 300 is really cool. We've had an incredible amount of guests and a lot of wisdom shared. We've talked about grief and loss and how to heal and things that have helped us and others. So I'm very proud of our journey here, and I just want to take this time, although we'll go deeper on episode 300, just want to take the time to not only thank you, Taj, but thank the whole foundation and everyone who chimes in and goes in live with us as much as they can. It wouldn't be the same without you all. So
yeah, exactly.
Big thank you to each of you, because this is a really important thing for us. So anything you want to add to that, Taj?
No, not really. I mean, you said it all, but very grateful with all the familiar faces that have been there since, maybe a lot of them since day one, but there's been a lot of consistencies, and I just very thankful for that.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a special thing. So, with that said, though, Taj, I think we can go straight into our show because we do have a special guest joining us today.
Mhm.
Her name is Jessica Correnti. Jessica is a certified child life specialist with more than 15 years of experience. She spent the first 14 years of her career in the hospital setting in pediatric
Mm.
ICUs, the
Ooh,
emergency department, inpatient units, and surgical centers.
wow.
Jessica has a Bachelor of Arts degree in education of young children, a
Mhm.
minor in psychology, and a Master of Science degree in healthcare administration and community health. She is the founder and owner of Kids Grief Support, a private practice that provides virtual and in person sessions to grieving children and families across the globe through therapeutic activities and support. Jessica is also the author of Forever Connected, a children's book for bereaved siblings, and the ABCs of Grief, which will be released this fall. Jessica is passionate about supporting grieving children, families, and the professionals that companion the bereaved. Here today to share a bit more about her work and her forthcoming book. Without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Power of Love show, Jessica Correnti. Jessica!
Well,
Applause, applause,
come on
applause.
in.
Jessica, first and foremost, did I say your last name correctly?
It's Correnti. Yep, you got it.
Okay, good. Okay. I usually ask the guests before we go live, but I forgot to ask that, so I apologize.
You did
Um,
well.
You
There
took
have
a
been
risk.
many very
Yeah.
interesting pronunciations of my last name, but you got it well.
Nice, nice, nice. So, Jessica, first and foremost, I commend you for all the knowledge you've accumulated and all the work you've done. It's really impressive. So,
Thank you.
just what first off, start off with that. Now, it's evident in the work you do that you have a passion for supporting children, of course, going through difficult situations, stages, obstacles, and experiences in their life. Where did this passion begin, and have there been any significant life events or personal encounters that may have reinforced or amplified this passion of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, really from a young professional timeline, I've always been interested in helping supporting kids going through difficult things. I kind of stumbled upon the career of child life. I was really torn between nursing and education, and a wonderful, wonderful professor taught me about child life. So, from the very beginning, I was so excited to be taking those two passions and helping kids through those really difficult events. And I started my career in a cardiac intensive care unit for children. And
Mm,
of course, in that setting, there is a lot of grief that takes place, not just bereavement, but there are a lot of life changing experiences that happen, a lot of diagnoses that come up that are just really difficult to navigate. So, seeing these families through these times and learning from them, I mean, they have really taught me everything that I know and now incorporate into all of my sessions and support with grieving families. I mean, what I know is because of these families. They taught me. They're really the teachers. So it started just from a professional lens of watching these families go through the most difficult events of their life and
mm,
finding ways to help support them through that, whether it was helping kids understand their diagnosis, helping siblings um, say goodbye to their brother or sister that was dying, or their parent, um, helping them to create meaningful memories with their child who is dying. Um, so it really started out in that professional lens. And then 8 or so years into my career, then I was the one on the other side. I was the one that was the grieving parent. I went through several pregnancy losses, and the one that I talk about the most is my daughter Maggie. She was stillborn at 22 weeks, and an experience like that, it changes you in every
Mm-hmm.
aspect. It changes you personally, it changes you professionally, like literally every aspect of your life, it changes you. So in those early days of grief, I kind of went in this space of I could do one of two things. I could step away from it entirely. It's just too much to touch. It's too triggering. Or I could channel this and support families like my own and really use this as fuel to help make a difference. And that's what I did. It really lit this fire within me to help grieving families. I think very early on I realized that there was a huge gap in services outside of the hospital setting. I think there are wonderful supports in the hospital. And when we went home, I realized I felt so alone. There weren't a lot of
Mm-hmm.
support groups that I knew of. There weren't groups to help grieving children. My son was a year and a half at the time and going through these very big emotions. He didn't really have anything to help him process that other than, I mean, thankfully I had some of the skills to help him through that. But I'm also a mom. I wasn't his child life specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those personal and professional worlds collided, and it just really lit a fire inside of me to make a difference and help other families have resources and feel less alone in their own grief experiences.
I have a question because I have a lot of questions, but one thing that's unique to me about you, we have a lot of people who come on the show and talk about whether it's their personal loss or what they've learned in being, who they are and with all the experience. I'm curious to know uh, everything, with your Bachelor of Arts degree in education of young children and a minor in psychology and a Master of Science in healthcare administration. You seem to really, from an academic standpoint or from an education standpoint, really seem pretty well versed when it comes to grief and loss and with, youth. My question is, what is something you would say the average person doesn't I don't want to say respect, but doesn't understand or isn't really understanding the importance of that you've learned or picked up on from your academic side, uh,
Mhm.
and not just experience. Because we get a lot of information from people through experience, but I'm interested to know what we can get from the academic side, academic brain of yours that we as a whole may be missing out on.
That's an interesting question.
And I know that I threw that on you, so I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay, but it's a really interesting question because I'm not sure if I can really tease out those two
Mm,
things necessarily, the
okay.
academic and the personal, because I think there are things that the academic side of me thought and believed wholeheartedly, and then I experienced it myself personally. I'm like, well, I don't know if the
Mm,
books totally had that right, or I don't know if this fits every single scenario. So there are
ki
certain pieces. Like here's a prime example of
yes,
this.
yes.
Um, so my son at the time, he was 19 months old. He came to the hospital to meet his sister who had died. And at 19 months old, the books would tell you there is no way that a child of that age will understand the permanence of death. That's what the books will tell you. Now, I went into the hospital. I told him very clearly with um, very concrete terms, honest terms, your baby sister died. She no longer has a heartbeat. I mean, I did talk to him in some ways what people would think, oh, that's like you're talking to him a little bit older than he actually is. But I said it in very concrete terms, no sugarcoating, no euphemistic language. And he got it right then and there. He held his baby sister. He has pictures with her. When we left the hospital, he never once rubbed my belly and talked to my belly anymore like he did previously every single day leading up to that point. He talked about his sister. He used the same terms that I used about how she died. He would ask to hold her urn. Like, he knew exactly where she was and what had happened. And he would tell people all the time, not even at 2, he would say, my baby sister died. And the
Mm,
books would not tell you that. The books would say
mm.
he's too young to understand.
Wow.
So, not to say every kid of that age would understand, but I think it goes to show that what we see in the books is not necessarily mirroring what happens for everybody. So I don't know if that totally answered your
No,
question, but
it does. It does. It's great. It's information that I think will help people, because sometimes, you know, I think sometimes people assume things, or things are one size fits all kind of thing, and everything is, if it doesn't happen to me this way, then something's wrong. So it's just
yeah,
another example of the fluidity of everything. So
yeah.
I think that's a great example. Now, I do have another question about the motivation behind
Uh-huh.
writing your debut children's book, which is called Forever Connected, which is acclaimed as an essential read for young children dealing with the loss of a sibling. So, first, what is the recommended age range for the book? And then, what could readers, parents, or caregivers, what can they anticipate from it?
So that book, Forever Connected, was written for the like 3 to 8 year old age range. I would say you can use it with slightly younger, perhaps with a 2 year old. You could use it for slightly older, for a 9 year old, for a 10 year old, but the 3 to 8 year range is really what it's written for. And what parents and caregivers can expect from this book. This book walks through, with these 4 characters right here, walks through conversations that they're having with their caregivers, with these really common questions that come up with grieving kids who are grieving the death of their brother or sister. And these questions are addressed by the caregivers with very simple, concrete language to really proactively take care of some misconceptions that maybe were occurring. So, with that, there is also this really underlying theme of showing these brothers, these sisters, how they can always remain connected to their brother or sister, um, in a lot of different ways. So it might be through physical objects that they had, it might be
Mm.
through memories that they have, it might be through just like signs or symbols that they have connecting them to their person. So that's really the general gist of the book, and that really stemmed from a need within the bereaved sibling group that I was leading. And parents kept coming to me saying, I don't know how to answer this question. Or they would come to me. I think one of the most common things that a parent would come to me with, one of the most common questions is, I am trying to help my child understand that while their brother or sister is not physically present, they still are all around in everything that we're doing. They still have that connection with them. They're still here, but they're not here. And parents were just like, I don't know how to talk about that. It's such an abstract thing. So that kind of sparked the idea for the book. I'm like, yeah, I don't think there's anything out there that really addresses that. I'm a huge fan of using books to help kids understand difficult topics.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
What
how
is
Spark was born.
what do you think it is about books? Because I agree with you. I think books are a great medium to help kids, and just people, but especially
Yeah.
kids. Uh, I have an idea, but I'm curious to
Yeah.
hear what you
There are a
think.
few different things that I would say. So the first one is books give us the language when we don't really have it,
Okay.
especially with grief. Grief is such a big topic. It's a heavy topic. And let's say there's a grieving parent who is also experiencing their own grief. When they're sitting down, they don't have to think of exactly which words to use. It's all right there for them. So
Mm.
that's one of them. It literally gives us the words. The other one is kids can see themselves in these characters. So for them, it's a way for it just gives them that that validation. They resonate with the whatever is happening in the book. So they see themselves and they feel less alone because
Mm.
they can see themselves in this book.
Mm.
So I think those are the two that really come to mind that help
Yeah.
take
Uh,
these big topics and make them a little accessible, a little bit more accessible.
Love
Yeah.
it. Completely agree.
My question is basically because you said that you used in the past used books to kind of relay messages and stuff like that, but you found that there was a need in
Mhm.
certain topics and stuff like that. How, in terms of, and you saw that hole that you were going to fill, but was that intimidating for you, or did you know in that way that you were like, I'm going to have to write this then, and I'm going to have to be the one, and people are going, and now I have to have those answers, which you probably already had, but now it's got to be in book
Yeah.
form for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it was intimidating. I mean, I'm the type of person that if I see a need, I'm gonna figure out how to fill that hole. So I have that determination piece. So the actual writing of the book was very easy for me. It was the rest of the stuff that was very overwhelming and difficult to put all the pieces together. I did a whole lot of research with how to, both of my books are self-published. So that is a huge learning curve. I spent a very long time reading books, reading blogs, lots of YouTube videos, you name it. I feel like I have a honorary degree in self-publishing or something.
Love it.
But yeah, it's overwhelming, but very worth it.
Yeah, probably very.
That's really cool to hear that you're doing this self. I think that's brilliant. I think it's also inspiring for anyone out there who has a story to tell themselves,
Yeah, exactly.
for the world to embrace. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Now,
course.
your forthcoming publication is called The ABCs of Grief, and it's also a children's book. And the ABCs of Grief, it's a children's book that walks through each letter of the alphabet to unpack different aspects of the grief experience. Very cool idea. So I guess my first question is what inspired you to write this book? And my second question would be, what is the mission of the book? And then the third, I know, three questions, but you can roll them up. You can ignore one. How did you get that idea of using ABCs for in the way you do in the ABCs of Grief?
Sure. So with this book, I'll take you back to where it started. One day I was putting my 5-year-old daughter, I guess maybe she was 4 at the time, 4-year-old daughter down to bed at night and reading her books, and I was reading her a book called The ABCs of Kindness. And as I'm reading this, I was just thinking, there's ABC books for everything. Like, where's the ABC book for grief? Like,
It's great.
where is that? Because it's really difficult to navigate. It's like such a big,
Mhm.
complicated experience that like even we as adults, when we face it, it's just such a difficult thing to go through. We feel like we don't even know our own thoughts, our own ideas. Like, what is this? So as I was thinking through this, I'm like, that's actually a really good idea. I love this idea. There's an ABC book for literally every topic, it feels like. So at that moment, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna break down this big word, grief, and help kids learn about what is grief, what does it feel like, what really just helping to give language to this really big word, and validating the experiences that they're going through. And really, one of my missions with this book was to normalize the conversation of grief, to give words to it, and to also dispel some of the grief myths that might be out there. And I think that this book does a wonderful job, not only helping to give kids that language and that understanding, but also adults too, because I think in our society, not um, there's not enough conversation about grief, what it is, what it's not. And hopefully this book will start to give language to grief and normalize the experience. And if we can do that when kids are young, by the time they are older, hopefully our society will be able to manage grief a little bit more fluidly and not be so afraid to
Yeah.
talk about grief.
That's been something that we've mentioned many times. It seems like we're moving in the right direction, but we still have some ways to go.
Yeah.
I remember when we lost our mother. I was searching. I was a big reader, and I was searching for books, and I didn't find anything really that was written for me.
Yeah.
And that's why when authors like you write and release books, it's so huge because you're giving people more options to heal and to help their kids heal. So again, we really commend you. Now, in addition to Forever Connected and the ABCs of Grief, you are also working on 2 more children's grief books.
Yeah. They're already written and edited. I just
Are
have
they?
to, yep, they're ready to go once we get through this first ABCs of Grief book. I have 2 more to go.
What can you share for us about those 2?
Okay,
The
so I
2
won't give
upcoming.
too much
Yeah.
because I gotta keep it keep the suspense. But what I will say is it's also going to be 2 more books that follow the alphabet, and it's going to really dive a little bit deeper into grief, what it feels like for kids, as far as like the emotional experience and how kids can move through their grief experiences through healing healthy ways. So
Mm.
I'll leave it at that.
I love it. I love it. It's great. It's great. I
Thank
commend you.
you.
I hope there's hundreds of more books that are going to come from you. I think we need it. So I love what you're doing.
Yeah,
I love what
it's
you're doing.
slightly addictive to write books, so I'm sure there will be many more.
I have a question from the very first book, from the idea to publishing, or I should say from the idea to having it where someone could buy it. How long
Mhm.
was that time frame?
So my time frame is going to be very different than others. So
Yeah.
you'll see a very large spectrum of normal. So for me, it was less than a year, slightly less than a year,
Wow.
11 months from the time that I sat down and wrote it until the time that you could buy it. Now,
That's
in the
very
second
cool.
book, it's similar. I wrote the 3 books, the series. I wrote them in January of this year, had them edited in February, March, hired my illustrator. She started in April, and she's excuse me, she's finishing everything up right now. I mean, she's been done with all of the illustrations aside from the 1 page that we're putting together from the Kickstarter that I have with this book, where people can honor somebody within the book. So we have 1 page left to go that will be completed once the Kickstarter is done.
It's super cool. So let me show some information on the Kickstarter, and
Yeah.
maybe you can just. We have this. Do you want to talk about anything on the screen that said, because
Sure.
people can now, if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, you're seeing some information from the Kickstarter Jessica was just talking about. You can go to kidsgriefsupport.com to learn more. But go ahead, Jessica. Now that I have
Sure.
the artwork
Yeah.
up.
So for those that don't know, Kickstarter is a all or nothing fundraising platform where you are essentially, your goal is to pre-fund the project. And what I'm trying to pre-fund, and actually successfully pre-funded because we hit our initial fundraising goal, or the minimum fundraising goal, I'll say. Essentially, what I'm pre-funding for is to do an offset, really professional print of these books. So I'm going to be ordering probably 2,000 books when I go to order them next month. And that's something I couldn't financially afford to do on my own without the pre-orders. So now that I've reached that minimum, everything that comes in is essentially a pre-order for your item. So there's anything from, just the book with with the tier 3 bookworm to there are these different tier levels that you see on the screen right here. And some of these are more geared towards grieving families or professionals that take care of grieving families. Others might be more geared towards organizations or grief centers, like some of these bigger ones, like The Giver, where you get 50 author signed copies of the book, so they can have those to give out to families, whether it's at the hospital or grief center or maybe even a therapist office. And so just different packages
Very
here
cool.
that appeal to different types of people or organizations. So kind of a little bit for everyone.
Super cool. Really, really
Yeah,
cool.
thank you.
Now, Jessica, as a certified child life specialist, you have supported families through pregnancy, infancy, child loss, as well as a large variety of losses related to death, life-changing events, and new diagnosis. Can you provide us with some information about the services you offer and who your sessions are specifically designed for?
Sure. So, so with my private practice, I meet with families. I'd say primarily virtually. Actually, most people that see me are virtual. One of the nice things about my credentialing is I'm not bound by state like many professionals are. So I have clients really all over the whole country. I even have a few clients that are international. So with that, it really opens things up, and which is so nice because there are so many families that they don't really have a grief center near them, or they don't have the ability to hop in the car and drive an hour to the closest person. So it really opens things up. But I meet with really families that are grieving anything. Like you said, it could be death, it could be divorce, it could be really any type of loss or change that is impacting a child. I will say probably 85-90% of my clients see me after the death of someone, but I have some others sprinkled in there that are seeing me for other situations too. And age range, I'd say I have had clients as young as 2 all the way up through the teenage years, and some clients that the child might be younger than 2, but the parent is wanting more of that consultation to figure out, how do I talk to my child? How do I support them? These are the behaviors I'm seeing. What can I do to really help support them through this difficult time?
What is the best way for people to learn more about those type of sessions that you provide?
My website's probably the easiest way to access that. So that's, yep, you got it right there.
All right, cool.
kidsgriefsupport.com. Yep.
So for those who may be listening, it's simply kidsgriefsupport.com. Everything is spelled the way you would think. Again, kids, plural, kidsgriefsupport.com. And then I guess we should also, I have another question for you, but since we gave that information, I should share your Instagram, which is also the same, at Kids Grief Support. So if you want to follow Jessica and on Instagram, you're heavily on Instagram, go check her out at Kids Grief Support. Is there any other social medias you do more of, or just pretty much Instagram?
Pretty much Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I don't post there very regularly. I don't know. It's not as much my
We're
vibe.
laughing because we just talked about it like yesterday about me and my
literally
brother.
yesterday
we
were
laughed
talking
at it when you said that.
Yeah, I go on there, I post a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't know.
It's not in your wheelhouse.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
I love the community that's been built on Instagram. It's like a little family over there, and I just feel a little lost over on TikTok.
Completely get it. So October marks the observance of Pregnancy, Infant, and Child Loss Awareness Month. And some people may find it difficult to navigate conversations with individuals who've experienced these kind of losses. And drawing from your extensive experience in supporting families in this area, could you kindly, Jessica, share one valuable tip? You can do two if you want, but one valuable tip with our listeners on effectively demonstrating our support to families who have suffered such a loss.
I'd say the biggest thing is do something. I think there is this big hesitancy to um, people think they're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and silence is so much worse. Doing nothing is so much worse. And, sometimes we might say the wrong thing, and it's okay. If you realize that you said the wrong thing, you can acknowledge that and own up to it. But doing something, it could be, the simple things that people always talk about: dropping off a meal, taking some chores off of their plate. I mean, just the presence of just being there and sitting with them and giving them the opportunity to share if they want to share, talk about their person if they want to, if they want to get their mind off of things and not talk about things, you can be there for them for that. But all the simple things of just doing something. And sometimes people don't really know what they want or what they need. So sometimes you have to give them some choices and say, I could do X or Y, which one would be helpful for you right now? Because it's hard to know what you need when you're in that fog of grief.
Several comments I want to highlight real quick.
Sure.
It's going to be a little all over the place, but Jessica said, I like that Jennifer said that I like that Jessica said that writing books is addictive. May we all be inspired to write a story, if not a book, but an article, essay, short story. Thank you. And she's commenting on what you just said. Yay on do something. Yes, follow through. And then Carrie says, yes, acts of kindness go a long way. So there's just a couple there's a couple more I'm going to highlight, but I just wanted to mention those three. Now, Taj, if you didn't have anything, I was going to turn the stage over to Jessica to bring us home. But
I mean, for me, as TJ mentioned earlier, like when we lost our mom, there wasn't any resource really in that way. And so anytime we have someone that is filling that void, and you're doing that with multiple books, which is incredible in itself, it's just very commendable in that way. And it's much needed. The younger me wishes that was there way back when, and that because this is therapeutic to me, this show, but I had a long healing journey past that because I didn't have the ample resources to deal with what I had to deal with. So I'm just, as I always say, I'm very thankful that you're on and in general, and that you're putting your time and energy into helping others. Very fascinated with your minor in psychology, because I always feel like psychology is such an important aspect in any kind of part of life in that way. So
I feel like everybody should have a minor in psychology.
Psychology that got me, the minor in psychology. But I think it's always, because everything's so, but you always have to, with grief, there's no one way to do something. You have to be able to adjust and navigate in that way as well. So I didn't really have any question. I just wanted to comment on, being thankful that you're here, and before we get to the one more thing aspect.
Okay, well, cool. Thanks for that, Taj. Completely agree with you, man. So, Jessica, before we started our live stream, we informed you that we like to end our shows with our guests talking about anything they want. It could be on topic, it could be off topic. I prepared you, so I don't need to go into further explanation, but the floor is yours, Ms. Jessica. You talk about whatever you want to share with our group.
Sure. It's funny because what I was going to bring to the table is actually completely different than what feels right to share now, but I'm just going to go with it. As a child life specialist, one of the biggest pieces of our profession is doing what we do through play. And I just wanted to, take this last little bit of time to just talk about that a little bit, and how play is just such, it's at the forefront of everything that we do, even through like the big, dark, scary pieces of grief. I mean, it's how I interact with kids. It's how I help them through the big things. And it's also a piece to recognize that play is how kids process things. And kids do process their grief in very different ways compared to adults. And utilizing, excuse me, utilizing play, which is their natural language, is how we can really help support them, how we can really sit back and observe and see, what is going on in their mind? What are their big concerns? What are maybe some misconceptions that they have going on? And we can learn so much through their play. And, that's certainly what most of my sessions are with children. It's often kind of curated to match what is going on for what their parents are bringing to the table, or their caregivers are bringing to the table, saying, these are the things going on right now. This is kind of what I'm hoping to get from these sessions. But really, we do that through play. We do it through expressive activities. Sometimes they might be art-based. Sometimes they might be utilizing the toys that they like at home to create something that relates to what they're going through, and helping them navigate their emotions and helping them find ways to cope with things. And I just wanted to bring that up here, that we can learn so much from just playing with kids. And it's not just play. I like to take that word "just" out there. It's play is huge, and it is a way to help kids through these really, really big experiences. And I think people get this idea or this misconception that my job must be so depressing and so awful, but most of it's play. I mean, yeah, there are some heavy moments that come up for sure, but most of it is not like that. Most of it is very light. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of goofiness. And then there are those heavy, serious moments. So
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. I appreciate that too, because that's something that is so unintimidating. I'm thinking, I can't think of the word right now, but it's also it's like meeting them in their home, in their natural setting. And that's something that I think
Absolutely.
we all overlook quite often. We think it
Mhm.
has to be a certain way, and everything has to be changed. But if we can let them be in their natural, fun state, we can
Yeah.
learn a lot through what they're going through. So I appreciate you mentioning
Absolutely. Yeah,
that
it's meeting
power.
them where they are in the moment. And I will say, almost every single kid, when they come to me for their very first session, they're really nervous. They're not sure what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
I think they have this idea that it's going to be, sit down in a chair in a therapy office, tell me all your problems. And that's not how it is. That's not how kids process anything big that they're going through. And every single time I've had a session with a new client, they're like, "Oh, that was fun. Wait, the time's up? Wait,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go yet."
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, Jessica, let's again share how anyone could get in contact. The best thing is going to be go to your website, kidsgriefsupport.com. You
Mhm.
are also on Instagram, which is at Kids Grief Support. So those are two very solid ways. If I'm missing a third or anything else you want to share for contact, you tell me. But otherwise, these are the best two ways to see what Jessica is up to and to be aware of everything.
Yeah, the only other thing that I'll add, if anybody is interested in getting the ABCs of Grief book, the Kickstarter stays open until November 9th is the last day. So you can go on
Perfect.
the Kickstarter website, type in the ABCs of Grief in the search bar there, or you can find that on both my website and my Instagram. It's up there. It will be up there for quite a bit over the next 2 weeks to make sure that everybody has access to it.
Very good. I'm going to throw some comments on there. You're getting a lot of thank yous
No, thank you guys.
from people who wanted to comment. And then April says about the books. It can make a great Christmas gift for kids who have suffered loss.
Yeah,
Miss Silent
absolutely.
Siren said, I've enjoyed this show so much. Brenda says she did follow you yesterday on Instagram. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on your posts. And Carla says, thank you, Jessica, for all that you do. And Brenda also said, kids really need a voice and someone who truly understands. You have a beautiful heart. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
And then back to April, who says, this has been an amazing show, Jessica. Keep writing these lovely books for the children and giving them the much needed love through them. So just wanted to share all that love from
Thank
some of
you.
the community. And I think that is it, Jessica, unless there's anything either Taj, you or Jessica need to share. We are going to wrap up today's show. We thank you all for joining in. And once again, Jessica, just thank you. Big thank you from myself, my brother, and our entire foundation for doing what you're doing and joining us today. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay. And Jessica, one more thing. When you do release your next books, reach out again so we could
Yeah,
we could have you on for follow up. I'm a big
will
supporter
do.
of books and anything we can help our kids through the grieving process. I want to make sure we're doing.
Yeah,
So
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
sweet. All right. Well, we are going to sign off for the day. We want to thank everyone who joined us live. Remember, this is on Facebook, YouTube, and of course a podcast. So there's many ways to rewatch this or re-listen. You can pick any of those. And again, we will be back next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Please be safe, everyone. Much love to you all, and have a wonderful rest of your week.